They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But what happens when a woman who's spent 7 years trying to become a mother discovers that her husband gave another woman the one thing she couldn't have? What happens when that other woman is her best friend? This is the story of Katerina Black, a successful architect whose perfectly constructed life crumbled in a single moment. But Katerina didn't just cry. She didn't just leave. She built something else entirely. A masterpiece of justice that would shake two families to their core. Because sometimes, the most devastating revenge isn't about destroying someone's reputation, it's about protecting an innocent child from the monsters who created them. Katerina Black had always been a woman who built things, beautiful, lasting things. Her architectural firm in downtown Seattle was renowned for creating spaces that felt like home. Ironic, considering the one thing she couldn't build was a family of her own. Picture this, a woman in her early 30s, standing in her perfectly designed kitchen every morning, staring at the empty breakfast table set for two, dreaming of the day she'd need to set a third place. A woman who designed nurseries for clients but had never been able to fill her own. For 7 long years, Katerina and her husband David had tried everything. IVF treatments that cost more than most people's cars. Hormone injections that left her feeling like a stranger in her own body. Specialists who spoke in percentages and possibilities, never promises. The calendar on their refrigerator wasn't marked with social events or work meetings. It was marked with ovulation cycles, injection schedules, and appointment dates. Their bathroom medicine cabinet looked like a fertility clinic pharmacy. Their savings account had been drained and refilled and drained again, all in pursuit of the one thing money couldn't guarantee. Each negative test was another brick in the wall she was building around her heart. Each failed treatment was another blueprint torn up and thrown away. But David was her constant, her rock, the man who held her when she cried after every doctor's appointment, who whispered that they'd keep trying, that they'd find another way. Their next-door neighbor Emily had become more than just a friend. She was the sister Katerina never had. Emily would bring over wine on the hard days, would listen when Katerina needed to rage against the unfairness of it all. She'd sit in Katerina's garden, helping her tend to the flowers that bloomed so easily, while Katerina's womb remained empty. Emily understood. After all, she was struggling with her own marriage problems with her husband Marcus, or so Katerina thought. It was a Thursday morning in October, when Katerina's world imploded. She'd taken the day off after another failed IVF cycle, another month of hope crushed into dust. She was in her garden, the one place that still brought her peace, when she heard voices from Emily's backyard. Emily was on the phone, pacing near the fence that separated their properties. "David, you have to tell her soon," Emily was saying. "I'm already showing, and the neighbors are going to start noticing. I can't keep pretending this baby is Marcus's, when we both know the truth." Katerina's gardening shears fell from her hands. The sound of metal hitting concrete seemed to echo in the sudden silence of her mind. 7 years. 7 years of needles and tests and hope and heartbreak. 7 years of David holding her, comforting her, promising her that they were in this together. And all this time, he was giving another woman what he couldn't give his own wife. But it wasn't just any woman, it was Emily. Sweet, supportive Emily who had cried with her over every negative pregnancy test. Emily who had held her hand during the worst of the treatments. Emily who was supposed to be her friend. That night, when David came home with flowers, guilt flowers, Katerina now realized, she said nothing. When he asked about her day, she smiled and lied just as easily as he had been lying to her. When he held her in bed that night, whispering about their future, their someday, Katerina stared at the ceiling and felt something cold and calculating settle in her chest. She was an architect. She knew how to plan. She knew how to build. And now, she was going to build the perfect revenge. But this wasn't going to be your typical cheating husband story. Katerina wasn't interested in public humiliation or messy divorces. No, she had something far more sophisticated in mind. Something that would hit them where it hurt the most. Their future, their family, their child. Because Katerina had realized something that David and Emily hadn't considered in their selfish affair. That innocent baby Emily was carrying. That child deserved better than parents who built their relationship on lies and betrayal. And Katerina was going to make sure that child got exactly what they deserved, even if it destroyed everyone else. In the process, Katerina spent 3 weeks gathering evidence, not the kind of evidence you'd expect. She wasn't hiding in bushes with a camera or hiring private investigators. She was an architect, and architects worked with blueprints, with official documents, with legal structures. She started with David's business. As his wife, she had access to his files, his computer, his financial records. What she found was interesting. David had been using company funds to pay for Emily's prenatal care, disguising the payments as consulting fees. Emily, who worked as a freelance graphic designer, had been billing David's architecture firm for work she'd never actually done. But that was just the foundation. Katerina dug deeper. She discovered that Marcus, Emily's husband, had no idea about the affair. He was excitedly preparing to be a father, converting their spare room into a nursery, bragging to anyone who would listen about the baby that wasn't even his. She learned that Emily had been lying to her doctor about the baby's paternity, listing Marcus as the father on all medical documents. This wasn't just adultery, it was fraud. And then Katerina found the piece that would make her plan perfect. Emily had applied for a promotion at her marketing company, a position that came with excellent health insurance and maternity benefits. She'd listed her stable marriage and impending motherhood as reasons why she was ready for the responsibility. The job would start next month, just in time for her maternity leave. Katerina smiled for the first time in weeks. She had her blueprint. The first phase was simple. Katerina began having coffee dates with Marcus, ostensibly to plan a surprise baby shower for Emily. During these conversations, she casually mentioned concerns about Emily's stress levels, her frequent doctor's appointments that seemed excessive for a normal pregnancy. "I'm worried about her," Katerina would say, playing the concerned friend perfectly. "She seems so anxious about the baby. And those specialist appointments, Marcus, is everything okay with the pregnancy?" Marcus, naturally, began asking Emily more questions. Why so many appointments? Why did she seem so secretive about her medical care? Emily, caught off guard, began making mistakes in her lies. The second phase was more direct. Katerina anonymously sent Emily's new employer copies of the fraudulent invoices Emily had submitted to David's company. She included a note suggesting they might want to verify their new hire's ethical standards before finalizing her employment. The third phase was where Katerina's architectural precision truly shone. She arranged for David to find out about Emily's job application and promotion. She mentioned, seemingly innocently, that Emily had gotten a wonderful new position and how excited Marcus must be about the financial security for their growing family. David, realizing that Emily had been making plans that didn't include him, began to panic. He started demanding to know what Emily's long-term plans were, whether she intended to leave Marcus, whether she saw a future with him. Emily, under pressure from multiple directions, started cracking. It all came to a head on a rainy November evening. Katerina had orchestrated it perfectly. She'd invited both couples over for dinner, ostensibly to celebrate Emily's pregnancy and new job, except Emily had lost the job 3 days earlier when her new employer discovered the fraudulent invoices, and Marcus had just found out the truth. It started when Marcus, who'd been suspicious for weeks, finally confronted Emily about the discrepancies in her stories. Emily, stressed and cornered, made the fatal mistake of calling David in front of her husband. "David, I can't do this anymore," she sobbed into the phone. "Marcus knows something's wrong, and I lost the job, and I can't keep lying about whose baby this is." The silence in the room was deafening. Marcus, his face white with shock, slowly looked around the table, at his pregnant wife, who was still clutching the phone, at David, who had gone pale and couldn't meet his eyes, and finally, at Katerina, who sat perfectly composed, her wineglass steady in her hand. "How long?" Marcus whispered. Emily was crying too hard to answer. David cleared his throat, started to speak, then stopped. It was Katerina who answered. 7 months, she said quietly. "The baby is David's." The explosion that followed was everything Katerina had planned and nothing like she'd expected. Marcus stormed out, but not before telling David exactly what he thought of men who betrayed their wives with their neighbors. Emily collapsed in sobs, begging for forgiveness from everyone and receiving it from no one. But it was David's reaction that surprised Katerina most. He looked at her across the wreckage of their dinner table and said, "You knew. You've known all along." "Yes," Katerina replied simply. "Why didn't you just leave me?" And that's when Katerina revealed the final part of her plan. "Because this isn't about us anymore, David," Katerina said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "This is about that baby." That innocent child who deserves better than parents who built their relationship on lies and betrayal. She pulled out a folder from her briefcase because, of course, the architect had come prepared with documents. Marcus is filing for divorce and demanding a paternity test. Emily's lost her job and will likely face charges for fraud. You've destroyed our marriage and your business partnership with the Henderson Project. When this gets out, and it will get out. She slid the papers across the table. Thank you for watching. Now tell me, if you were in Katerina's position, what would you have done? Please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible revenge stories.